Hi everyone, your godmother's here. Thank you for joining me. I'm wearing a shirt. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see Louise. She's over here too. I'm wearing a shirt that might give a clue to some things that are going on this month with this recording. I am doing my top 10 black and white films. And no, you are not going to see a girl walks home alone at night in this top 10 list, even though that movie could appear in every top 10 list I have. It's one of my favorites of all time. These are black and white films that were made before your godmother was made, which is hard to believe because I'm older than dirt. One thing that was weird when I was watching these movies is that they all had such super long intros. I know we joke now about how it takes movies forever to start because they list all of the production companies that are involved and they name them all. But back then, there was literally 7 to 8 minutes of naming everybody in the film, like including grips and sound people. Um, Everyone who ever watched the movie was listed in the beginning. Like, it's crazy. Seriously, it's all that stuff that we tack on at the end now, but it was jammed in the beginning back in the day. So if you go to watch some of these films that I'm recommending, pay attention to that. It's crazy. This must have been when people went to the bathroom or they went and grabbed their popcorn or something, but it was really bananas. Number 10 is The Innocents from 1961, directed by Jack Clayton and starring Deborah Kerr. Full disclosure, I hate the turn of the screw, the story. I hate it as if it personally assaulted me. That makes the appearance of this film on the top 10 list really remarkable. Um, the Turn of the Screw is written by Henry James, who is a perfect example of, he wasn't really a Nepo baby per se, but of privilege, of being in the right place at the right time, which is why we study him in American literature and we skip over a lot of more groundbreaking authors than he was. Um, Despite the Turn of the Screw being a very meh story, it has been adapted into film countless times. When I was on the What a Scream podcast, we did 3 different versions, not even hitting on this 1961 version. So if the Turn of the Screw is your jam, there are plenty of film versions you can watch. This one, I felt, elevated the source material, certainly made it more interesting. If you don't know the story, a governess has been hired to watch over 2 children, Miles and his sister, Flora. They were orphaned and left in the care of their uncle, and the uncle has basically abandoned them. Like, he wants nothing to do with them. He just puts them up in this mansion, this house, and has, staff in there to take care of the kids and watch the kids. And he maybe once a year pops in or something. Miles is actually not in the beginning of the film because he's away at boarding school, but then he is expelled because he is an injury to others. And this is what I really like about this version. The kids are really creepy. They're kind of borderline demonic. The 1970s version, the Miles is creepy, but he's really creepy in this one. He's more than creepy. He's super smug. He's like young Republican smug. He's a manipulative little gaslighter. And he just makes the governess crazy. And I love when he calls her a dirty-minded hag. If I weren't already the godmother of horror, that would be my nickname. Dirty-minded hag. I love it. Uh, but he's just really forceful here. And Flora is feral. She's really wild. Spoiler. I do prefer versions where the governess is more strongly implicated in Miles' death at the end. Like in the 1970s one, she accidentally pushes him down the stairs. So if I were to do this version again, this 1961, or if I were to be able to go back in time and just do something to this, adapt it one more time, I would have the governess like maybe push him into the statues or something, just so that we have even more of that, like, is she crazy? Are they crazy? Is she really involved? Tension that's really well done in this film. The kiss at the end is so very wrong. Number 9 is Repulsion, directed by Roman Polanski, and I know we've canceled him, but okay, whatever. And starring Catherine Deneuve. When this movie starts, like, you have no idea what's going on. There's this woman supine with this like face mask caked on. It looks like cement. And then we realized, oh, this is a spa and it's super catty. So like I leaned right in at this point. I'm like, I'm so into this. Catherine Deneuve is beautiful. Her hair makes her look like an angel. She's got that, like, she just looks like sunshine peeking through the clouds. She's got that 1960s beauty that it's hard to replicate today. She is basically like asexual in this film, and there's this one bro dude guy who keeps like pushing himself at her. She has no interest in him. And like, watching this, I got a little uncomfortable because like this whole film feels like a Polanski kink of like, we're going to take this repressed woman who hates sex, but in the background she's really fantasizing about the most violent sex possible. It's just, I can feel Polanski's fingers all over it, and it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. I still really, really enjoy this film. So we have this frigid girl. She's living with her sister who's having an affair with a married man, and they're sharing an apartment. So she overhears them being intimate, and it kind of like plays with her mind a little bit. She gets sort of obsessed with it, and then she starts having these violent hallucinations. The dialogue in this film is funny in a weird way, and there's some really long, odd shots of non-action items that are really typical of Polanski. Like, we'll just watch people, like these side tertiary characters have nothing to do with it, the film doing things. It's so Polanski. There's a lot of obvious symbols, like there are cracks everywhere. There's cracks in the pavement. There's cracks in the wall, which equal the Catherine Deneuve's crack on her psyche. What I love about this and what saves this film for me is the way I interpret it as the depiction of male privilege and then female rage finally hitting the boiling point and reacting against that male privilege. Trigger warning, there are rape scenes, attempted rape scenes in this film, and knowing what we know about Polanski, it makes it even grosser. Basically, after watching this film, I never want to see a skinned rabbit again. If you know, you know. Number 8 is Carnival of Souls from 1962. This film is loosely based on the French short An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge from 1961, which is an adaptation of the 1890 story of the same title, written by Ambrose Bierce. So, for those of you literary minded folks, that's kind of a giveaway about what this story is about if you're familiar with the story. This movie starts with a drag race between a car full of young men and a car full of young women, which I know nothing about the 60s. I wasn't around then, but they do a lot of drag racing. And I have to wonder why. Like, is that true? Older people watching this, let me know. Like, learn me on this. Did people really drag race all the time? Because it seems to happen in all the films in the 60s. And I grew up pre-internet, and I grew up in a super, super, incredibly boring place. We still didn't drag race. We found other things to do to entertain ourselves. But anyway, car full of boys, car full of girls. The girls' car goes over the bridge, and apparently, everyone has died. But then we see one young woman crawl out of the water along the bank beneath the bridge. So we're like, oh my gosh, there's someone who's alive. And the way this part is filmed really looks almost newscasty. It's such a nice um, moment in film for this. The woman who crawls out, her name's Mary, and we follow her story because she moves to another town to become the church organist. And the other characters in the movie actually ask, like, is that a real job? And I was glad they did, because I was thinking the same thing, like, you're really going to pay rent being a church organist? But okay. But it's also symbolic in this film that she's the church organist. Once Mary moves, she starts having visions of a horrifying man, and she also finds herself seemingly invisible to others. I love the way this is filmed. It's a really nice piece of psychological horror. The director was really influenced by Ingmar Bergman, and you can see it and feel it. One thing that many of these black and white films have in common that you'll see through this list is a female character who spends the film sort of suspended in a state of disassociation, just like in the last film, Repulsion. She was kind of disassociated from everyone. In this one, she is too. We continue to have that. I don't want to give away the ending. Again, if you read the short story, you could probably guess where this is heading. Uh, but once you see it, and see like the mind trickery going on in this film, you'll understand why it landed at number 8. Number 7 is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. This is from 1920, directed by Robert Wayne, starring Werner Krauss and Conrad Veidt. And this slot is probably where the original Nosferatu would have landed if it had not already been in one of my top 10 vampire film lists. This film is an acid trip. It is a quintessential work of early German expressionist cinema. So if you know what that is, you'll know what this is. It tells the story of an insane hypnotist who uses a brainwashed sleepwalker to commit murders. I can't say that word. The film looks like an abstract painting, and that's sort of what the expressionist feel is. It features a lot of dark, twisted visuals with sharp pointed forms and oblique curving lines. The structures in the landscape sort of like lean and twist in an unusual angles. So you're sort of like, as you're looking at it, you're doing a lot of this. Like, how does this even work? Like, how are these people sitting on these chairs? How are they standing here? Shadows and streaks of light were actually painted directly onto the film and the sets, which gives a really cool effect. The only thing I can compare it to in my mind is like a Dr. Seuss. You know how in Dr. Seuss it's got those weird twisting structures? That's how it feels to me. This is a framed story, which according to legend was forced upon the writers, but I really like it. I like this film within the film feel where we start with these people and two men, and the one man's like, let me tell you the story, and then we jump into the film. I really like that. It, for me, it grounded me, and in this instance it added this feeling of reality to the abstract, and it made sense that the inner story is so abstract because it's being retold. It's the recollection of someone, and our memories are not real. Memories are reconstructed by the person telling it. So it works really well in this instance to have sort of this external story that looks visually more real, and then the internal story to be in that abstract expressionist style. Some of you do not like silent films, and I get it, but honestly, take an edible or a shroom or something and settle in for this. It'll be worth it. Number 6 is Cat People from 1942, directed by Jacques Tourneur and starring Simone Simon, which is an amazing name, and Tom Conway. Simone Simon plays a beautiful Serbian woman who falls in love with an American engineer. She believes in the superstition of her culture that if she succumbs to her strongest emotions, especially sexual desire and passion, she will turn into a cat-like monster. How much fun would that be? They marry, but their marriage is largely celibate because of this fear that she has. And the engineer, being a stupid man, turns to his female friend for a shoulder to cry on. So, like, guys, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't talk about your sexual problems to a friend who you may or may not have a slight sexual attraction for. Anyway, this all sparks jealousy in the wife, and you know where this is going. It's delicious. The godmother loves to take a deep look at our social fears of female hunger. And when I talk about hunger, I mean hunger. I mean hunger for food, hunger for power, hunger for sex, hunger for money. Socially, that's a scary thing. And that's where my book, The Bloodlights, came from. Actually, The Bloodlights came from, at the time, there was talk, and you can Google this, you can look at Uncle Google and confirm this. There was talk of a brand of Doritos that was going to be developed for women so that it doesn't leave all that residue on your fingers, but most importantly, it wouldn't be as loud as regular Doritos, because we don't want women to eat loudly. They should be demure when eating. So I love things like this film that also look at that also make those strong feelings. Women aren't supposed to feel strong feelings. That's really scary. And I love that this film does this. Um, this movie also has sort of like xenophobia because she is an immigrant, and there's sort of like this, oh no, what if we get infiltrated by these crazy cat people? This movie also has, for you film buffs, what is considered to be the first jump scare. It's that bus scene. If you know, you know. I love Simone's accent. I love the swimming pool scene. It's amazing. I love all the weird animal illusions that go on throughout this film. And most of all, I love that we have a monster that is really complex and sympathetic. Number 5 is Freaks. And of course, you can't have a black and white top 10 list without Freaks. Freaks is from 1932, directed by the great Todd Browning, starring Lila Hyams and Wallace Ford. The final moment of this movie remains one of the most shocking endings in pre-code horror history, and one of the most, like, we all know it. If you know it, you know it. We all repeat it. It's iconic. This film also takes a stance that's now really common in horror films, that sometimes the worst monsters are those that walk among us undetected. The monsters that look like us, the ones that we can't tell apart from us, they're the scariest monsters. If you were really to dive into this film, you would find that there are many, many interpretations of it, especially as it relates to the Great Depression and the class divide. Um, and we can argue about the casting of disabled actors in this film, whether that was enlightening or salacious. I can see both sides to that argument. This movie remains an influence on modern horror. So if you're watching it, again, as you're watching it, keep in mind this is 1932, and keep that context of it and realize how revolutionary it really was, because you'll see all the impacts, those ripple impacts that this film has had on horror movies. And if you've watched the Freak Show season of American Horror Story, like, if they basically tried to do freaks. So if you've not seen this one, you really need to, if for nothing else, just to see the root source of some of the things that we enjoy in horror today. Number 4 is Psycho. I could not have it on this list, right? The 1960 film directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh. This film was based on the novel by Robert Bloch, and Robert Bloch loosely was inspired by the infamous killer Ed Gein. While filming, Hitchcock bought up all copies of the Robert Bloch novel to preserve the surprises. I don't even know. That's so not even possible today. There's no way you could do that, not with Kindle and all the ways that we have to get access to material. But I find that so cool. And I'm a huge Robert Bloch fan, huge fan of his writing. This is really considered the first slasher film, and it was a small budget movie. At the time, Alfred Hitchcock had his show, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and he just had the film crew from the TV show just go over and film the movie. This movie has become iconic in the truest sense of the word. We all go, right? We all do this psycho, like screechy music to mimic the shower scene. We've all seen the shower scene a million times. It's incredibly famous for good reason. It's amazing. We even use the name Norman Bates, the main character, synonymously with like introverted, browbeaten, psychotic characters. Like that's the Norman Bates character. So the story really no longer has a twist. It originally had a twist, which is why Alfred Hitchcock bought up all the copies. The twist is gone. We all know this story, but it's still so much fun. And even if you've already seen it, you should go back and try to find Alfred Hitchcock. He always makes a cameo in all his films. So it's always fun to go back and see if you can't spot him. Number 3 is The Haunting from 1963, directed by Robert Wise and starring Julie Harris and Claire Bloom. Based on a novel by the wonderful Shirley Jackson, another favorite writer of mine. I love to read Shirley Jackson. Her novel was called The Haunting of Hill House, and you can go back. I've done multiple podcasts on The Haunting of Hill House and what my thoughts are. I'm not going to bore you with all of that here. But basically, I do want to add just now that the title, The Haunting of Hill House, always leads me to believe that the house is being haunted. It's not a haunted house. And this film really leans into that interpretation of it. The novel's sort of like the yellow wallpaper, in that we have a female character, again, who's sort of disassociated. As I said, she's under great distress, and her psychosis sort of spurs on some paranormal stuff, and you're sort of in that, just like the governess in The Turn of the Screw and in The Innocents. You have this female character where you're not sure whether she is actually experiencing something paranormal or she's experiencing psychosis. This film captures that dichotomy really well. The story is about a group of people who are brought together for a paranormal study in a house where death has occurred multiple times over. This movie is tense. It is tense, relentlessly tense from beginning to end. There have been other attempts to translate this novel into film, notably Rose Red, which took a really different turn, and then that 1999 really unfortunate remake. Again, I'm talking films. The Mike Flanagan series was amazing. I'm not talking about that one. The ending in this is both, I'm not going to give it away. I'm just going to say it's both like and unlike the novel, which is mainly because in the novel, there's a certain point of view that you can't really capture in the film. So they did a really good job of twisting it a little bit, just enough that we got sort of the ending from the book, but also we were able to make it work for the film. And I really like that. I don't like when they change the ending. There's some really cool special effects in this film. And I mean, old school pre-CGI effects. It really made me nostalgic for really good old special effects. We also have an overtly lesbian character, which was cool for the 60s, and some really unsettling scenes. Many people, like if you go on Reddit and look this film up, many people find this scary. So I recommend giving it a try. And number 2 maybe does not have the most innovative title, but this is a crazy fun movie. This movie is so much fun. I'm thinking of doing a watch along for this one because it would be great in a group. It would be, even if we're a virtual group texting about it, it'd be fantastic. This is The House on Haunted Hill from 1959, directed by William Castle, starring Vincent Price and Carol Omar, and period. That's all you need to know. That's it. That's all you need to know. Vincent Price and Carol Omar play this married couple who are really not real happy with each other, and their banter is amazing. First of all, okay, Carol Omar, oh my God, she looks like a showgirl. She's so beautiful. She has this voice. It's just crazy, her voice. And she's got this like Morticia Adams, I'm the queen attitude. I love her. I love her. And no one is Vincent Price. And he's at his most Vincent Price in his film. No one could say murder like him. Murder. Like he just, he's so good. And he plays a wealthy man who invites others to stay the night in a haunted mansion. And if they can last the night, they get $50,000 in 1959 money, which is like what, a gazillion dollars. Like they could buy dozens of eggs, dozens and dozens of eggs with that kind of money today. Price just steals the show with Omar right behind him. He's dapper, he's witty, he's charming, but he's also creepy at the same time. Like I don't know how he does that. I don't know how he can be so smooth and sophisticated, but just icky and creepy too. It's amazing. He says things like, well, what man hasn't ever dreamed of killing his wife? Like, and you're like, yeah, okay. Like you know what I mean? Like you just go along with it. There's a couple Scooby-Doo moments as they're like trying to like navigate this haunted mansion. And that makes it fun. And they have everyone at the party has these little like party favors that look exactly like my little coffin. And inside everyone has a gun, which is really a bad idea, but I love it. Again, this needs to be a watch along. It's so much fun. There's actually a theremin. You can hear a theremin in the like as part of the music in the film, and there's a really delightful twist at the end. So yeah, we need to all watch this together because it's just a classic. It's so much fun. And number one, again, my t-shirt is The Bride of Frankenstein, which was directed by the great James Whalley and starring Boris Karloff, who's reprising his role as the monster, and Elsa Lanchester as the bride. This is probably one of the best sequels in the history of horror films. Those of you who have been watching my other top 10s, you know I am a bit of a Frankenstein scholar. I mentioned this when talking about An Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. So because of that, I get a little hung up on the original Frankenstein film. I can't just relax and watch it because I am mentally comparing notes and becoming really fussy when the source material is discarded. As Mary Shelley did not write The Bride, I know, yes, again, I'm a Frankenstein scholar. Don't be like, the bride is mentioned. I know the bride's mentioned in Frankenstein. I know, but she did not write this whole part of it. So I can just kind of enjoy it and relax and separate it from Mary Shelley. In this film, Elsa Lanchester plays both Mary Shelley and the bride. Is there's this wraparound story. The story begins with the writing of Frankenstein, and as always, Percy Shelley and Lord Byron are portrayed as royal twats, and I would not have it any other way because they were royal twats. There's a lot of religious imagery in this film. You can watch it through a queer lens. We've got two men trying to make life together. Dr. Frankenstein is interrupted on his honeymoon by the other man. Like there's some weird stuff. And the monster for me in this one is scarier than in the original. In the original, I did not find him scary at all. I found him sort of kind of almost funny, sad, funny at the same time. This one, he can be kind of creepy because he's more violent. He's more aggressive. What the wraparound story really does is make a connection. I appreciate this film so much for this. It makes a connection between Mary Shelley and the bride. Normally we connect Mary Shelley to the monster. So I like this Mary bride connection. They both struggle to be different from what society expects of them. There's a lot of talk in this film about the heart, the bride's heart, and I feel like this is an allusion to Mary Shelley wearing Percy's heart around her neck. I would argue that it was his liver and not his heart, but that's a sidebar that we don't need to get into. And I'm going afield. Anyway, the bride, as we know, rejects the monster, much like Lilith rejects biblical Adam. And then all hell breaks loose. And my question always is, why did they include a lever to blow up the lab as a part of their design plan? And place it right where the vindictive scorn monster can reach it, like right at his level. I don't know. Anyway, I could fall down a rabbit hole here about the relationship between the scientist. I hate that they call him Henry and not Victor, but whatever. And the monster and the bride, like what that's all doing. But I'm not going to go into that because I don't want to bore you with all that. And you can go back and watch other things where I've talked about it. I've been on the What a Scream podcast talking about it a couple of times. So if you're into that kind of gothic lit interpretation, you can find that elsewhere. And I could put links to those down below as well. But I'm just going to say this is a remarkable film. And it still holds up. It's still great today. It is super entertaining. And The Bride, to me, is one of the greatest creature designs ever. So thank you for sticking with me through this. I plan to dive into horror movies about cults next month. So if you don't want to miss that, subscribe.